This is a spot on the wall that I had to fix, and you can see that it's textured, so I'm going to talk about texturing. I've gone in a little close here because I've sanded this, and on the edge, because I can't sand it smooth because of the existing texture, I just wanted to show you a little trick to get rid of these little edges. I know it's kind of hard to see, but when you sand it smooth, around the edge, you're going to have really strong profile edges, and to get rid of that, you can just take a wet rag and run right around the edge of it. Okay, and just kind of smooth it in to the existing texture, okay? So you do that after you sand. All right, I'm going to be using, this is Homax wall texture, the orange peel. It is, you can go from heavy, medium to fine. You adjust it by moving this thing back and forth. So once you're all ready, okay, so I've sanded this smooth and then I've wiped down the edge of it to kind of blend into the existing texture. I like to use the oil-based stuff because I think it just works better. The water-based doesn't create the kind of texture that I like. So I like the oil-based, but just be prepared. This stuff really stinks. It's probably got acetone or something in it. So if you're trying to be environmentally friendly, or if you have kids or pets, you know, make sure you've got lots of ventilation if you're going to use this, or use the water-based stuff. And what you can do is, you can see that I've got a piece of cardboard here that I've been practicing on. So this is a great idea because you're trying to match the texture that's around here the best you can. Now this has been sprayed a lot of times. Down here is really heavy, and up here is really fine. So I'm just going to do the best I can. Now, you don't want to, when you spray, all right, you don't want to hold it still and just push the button down, or you're going to get a heavy buildup. I know it's hard to see it here, but it looks like that's what they did here. You want to push down, you want to be moving your hand and then push down and then release. You want to go back and forth, nice clean strokes, okay? And what you can do is practice on the piece of cardboard, because you could also dial in the finish. So that looks pretty close to what's going on here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you want to go outside of your area. Like, don't tape off around the patch. If you tape across the patch, let's say you did this and then you put paper up here, and then because you're trying to protect the rest of the texture. When you go to pull the tape, you're going to have a texture line here, right? You pull this and the new texture is going to be here and the old's going to be here, and there's going to be this really noticeable line. So don't do any taping around it, okay? Now another thing to keep in mind is that this stuff has a tendency to kind of go everywhere, especially straight down. So I'm only about a foot off the ground, but I've completely covered the plate, which you can probably see the top of there. And then I've completely covered off the baseboard, and the floor is completely covered, you know, a ways away from me, because sometimes when you're spraying this stuff, it just kind of goes out of control, but it's especially pretty heavy. It goes straight down. So make sure you've got your floor, anything that you need to cover below it, make sure that it's covered, okay? And then just take your texture, and remember, you're just moving back and forth. Okay, so that's what you want to do. And then you let that dry. It may seem a little big right now, but it will shrink back down. Okay, so you see that I've gone way outside of it. When this is dry, I'm gonna prime it. You could use the wall paint, and I would do it a couple of times before you actually go back and do your last 2 coats of paint. And the reason that I say that is the old texture has layers of paint on it, which means it's starting to get, the layers of paint cause the texture to get rounder, right? Because you're getting a buildup of paint there. But this is brand new, right? So if you put a couple coats on it, it's not gonna have that kind of rounded look like the old paint will. So put a couple of coats of either your, like maybe a coat of primer, first coat of finish, and then roll the entire wall 2 more times, okay? But do this at least a couple of times so you get a nice buildup of paint over the top of it, all right?